Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the series. We are up to gold. We're going to be covering 3 things in today's episode. We're going to be talking about a bunch of random stuff to just add into your arsenal. We are going to be talking about defense. That's probably the main theme of this video. And we are going to be talking a little bit about Ingrid's level 2 super. This bad boy. Pretty disgusting move. Let's talk about some random stuff that here in gold you should start integrating into your game. So the first one is that you want to start doing this. Neutral jump beam. It's really quite an effective keep away tool. I'm kind of amazed at how many people get hit by it. Generally speaking, neutral jumping is quite threatening. People in the low grades are not very good at doing air-to-air attacks to beat this. They are not very good at doing uppercuts to beat it, and if they walk underneath you, it's pretty easy to use a heavy kick to start a big combo on them. So it's quite a powerful thing to be neutral jumping quite a lot. I don't think you should get super into the habit of it, but something to mix in there, and this is quite a good option. If you see the person coming closer to you, you can use the heavy kick to try to get a combo started. And if you see them moving away from you, once they start to get scared of this option, then you can just start charging in the air instead, which is lovely, right? Because then you can get free charges because your opponent's moving away. So this adds some nice layers to your game. Relatedly, you should be using the laser beam a lot as a poke in neutral. It's 21 frames, that's slow, but it seems to come out a lot more deceptively than the fireball. The fireball has this big like flash animation as she crafts it, and so it's much easier to react with a drive impact to the fireball, or with a lot of the anti-fireball tools that other players have, like Blanca's slide, Marissa's Superman punch. You can react quite easily to this fireball with those moves, whereas this one, because once you see the light, the beam's already coming out, it's much more deceptive, and it leads immediately into a stock, which I think makes it like really quite a good poking tool, even at 21 frames. You should be letting the beam rip occasionally at level 2. By occasionally, I mean like once a set. So by let it rip, I just mean you're just hanging around in neutral and boom, you just like fire the beam out. Obviously, you should try to be paying a bit of attention to what you're doing. You know, is your opponent dashing? Are they just like charging towards you thoughtlessly? If someone's like really patiently waiting for you to beam, then it's probably not worth doing. But if they seem to be a bit cavalier about their beam, then I think it's definitely worth doing. And you can have a little drill just to practice this for yourself. So I've got Manon doing a couple of things here. So in the first slot, I've just got her doing walking forward, back, forward, so she'll gradually come towards me. In the second slot, I've got her going forward, back, back, forward, back, so she's gradually walking away from me. In the third slot, I've got her walking and crouch blocking, Okay, so a lot of the time, she's going to be walking backwards. All right, turn all of these on. Also, you can put the dummy to block randomly, but if you have recordings going, that's not going to work. And then just have her walking around and fire your beams out occasionally. Right, you saw she blocked that. And we're just trying to confirm if we get a hit, we want to butt drop into her. All right. Now, to help you make this more realistic or more easy, go into the environment settings, character specific settings, and put Ingrid on 4 sunstocks. And then save state there, right? And now every time you reload, you'll have 4 stocks. All right, and then just get into it. Right. I mean, this is so abusive, 3,000 damage off like nothing, and like full screen corner carry. It's very brutal. And the mental damage of this is so high. Like if your opponent's like a Manon in particular who has to like really walk you down the whole screen, and just as she thinks she's making some progress, you are just whipping out the beam. And then you can confirm that teleport kick, and now you're stocking up again, and she's got to walk towards you, and then you get the butt slam, right? It's pretty abusive. So don't be spending stocks trivially, but I think it is worth having it as a jump scare. A lot of Ingrid's game plan is about forcing your opponent to slow down because they know that you can beam them for 4,000 damage pretty casually, so they start to play more conservatively, and that gives you more space to open up your fireball game. Speaking of which, you should be using fireball drive rush with Ingrid, so just the light fireball and drive rush in behind it. Even if your opponent blocks, you're still going to get good throw pressure. If they block early and then you can come in behind it, you're just in their face with a good situation. Fireball drive rush is one of the most kind of irritating, annoying crap parts of this game, but it is really powerful, so you should use it in your arsenal. Be mindful that the normal response people have to fireball is to jump over it, and if you're fireball and drive rushing in and all you're thinking about is putting out a big heavy kick, then someone's going to jump in and heavy kick you to the face. So what you want to be doing instead is fireball drive rush and watch what your opponent does. Right? If they jump over it, then you want to be trying to get them with a fireball, right? Sorry, get them with your flip kick. I've actually got her doing that here somewhere, yeah. Alright, this is an unrealistic drill, but it doesn't do a bad job of it. So we have the dummy on random block. Sometimes she's going to jump forward when she blocks. Other times we can have her on block drive impact. And this will actually cause us some problems if we are coming in there, right? And that's the main thing to be worrying about, is that heavy kick is not drive rush is not cancelable. So once you are committed to the heavy kick, until it plays out its whole animation, you can't stop people drive impacting you. So drive impact defense is quite effective against a lot of Ingrid's stuff. It stops her fireball pretty well if you can react to fireball. It stops this pretty well. It stops some of her wake up pressure, or at least makes your opponent think about it more. So be ready for people to be drive impacting you. So just coming in and watch what's happening, and then you won't get caught. So get in the habit of just watching the situation. Obviously in a real life situation you wouldn't fireball and then drive rush this late. You'd be coming in immediately behind it. But this is at least a way to just get your brain clued into watching for drive impacts, watching for forward jumps, this kind of stuff. If they drive impact, obviously you drive impact. If they forward jump, you flip kick it. And if they do nothing, then you can come in with your heavy kick or with crouching heavy punch. And you can convert off crouching heavy punch into sunrise. You should also be using, same situation applies. If the person reacts to your drive rush cancel with drive impact, you're in trouble. But it's pretty hard to do that. You've got to be mashing it. If your opponent is doing that really well, then instead of going into heavy kick, just go into crouching medium punch and you can bait it. Alright, the nice thing about crouch medium punch is you'll be super plus. So you can go into a throw on block, go into a hit, but you do have to now think about what you're doing. So I'm mostly gonna leave this platinum. In platinum video, we'll talk a lot about all the different options that you have off drive rush, but for now I just want to say that you should be using low forward into drive rush because it's super powerful, right? Ingrid has a nice low forward, it's got good range, it's 8 frames, it's basically the same as Ryu's, it's maybe a bit shorter than Ryu's, but it's pretty solid. On the hit, this is totally savage. I mean, we just did a whole stack of damage to her, zapped her. It's a really nice way to switch from playing sort of defensively and throwing fireballs out a lot to then all of a sudden just kind of close the distance and go into this, right? Nice. And if you've got the stocks, then it's even more brutal. Right, and now we've got her in the corner. We've done a stack of damage already. The momentum really flips quite quickly. So integrate low forward drive rush into your game, and we'll talk about it in much more detail in the platinum video. And then one more thing I want to talk about is using the OD fireball. We did talk about this a little bit in the very first video, but not in much detail. The OD fireball is very unusual in Street Fighter because it allows you to have another fireball on the screen. So you can just immediately put the high fireball up. It's particularly effective if your opponent is in burnout. There's just kind of really not a lot they can do to stop you walking in behind all of those fireballs. You can do it in reverse, but that's generally not what I'd recommend. But in any case, like there are situations, particularly against really like unga bunga opponents who are just like charging at you all the time, where putting out those two fireballs can be quite helpful. And it's just always good to keep your opponent guessing. Like the regular fireball and the OD fireball look exactly the same. It's just that Ingrid flashes when she puts out the OD fireball. And so your opponent thinks, oh, it's just the normal fireball. I can, I don't know, use my own fireball or whatever. And it's like, no, because this is a 2-hit fireball. And then you've got the third fireball coming in over the top. You can walk in towards them. All right, I think that covers it for all the kind of random stuff I wanted to add. Be mindful of the drive impact. All right, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about, which is just fishing with kick heavy and neutral. So in the lower grades, people don't really play neutral. They don't really get in this close to you. The exceptions are the Zangiefs and the Manons. But most players will kind of sit back here, and Camis will try to spin knuckle towards you. Akumas will try to dive Demon Raid towards you. Kens will just like fireball drive rush towards you. Aki will fireball drive rush towards you. No one will really play neutral. But if you do get someone who is playing neutral, or if you decide to be aggressive, as you should be, and play in this range, then this is such a delightful button because it moves you forward. It's very active. It's got a grossly disjointed hitbox and hurtbox. So basically, like when she retracts at the start, your body is so tiny. There's very little of you to be hit. And then once her foot is past her head, everything in front of her is a hitbox, so it's all just dealing damage to your opponent. The other nice thing about it is it's 2 hits, so you've got plenty of time to confirm that you've got a hit, or that your opponent has blocked it, or that your opponent is trying to do a drive impact, or whatever it might be. So just a little exercise to practice that. So go into the dummy settings, put the dummy on random counter hit, random block, all right? Then go into the reversal settings and just turn everything off for the time being. All right? What we want to work on here is confirming what sort of hit we got. So if we just got a regular hit, then what we want to do is go into our ballerina combo. Right? That's it. So we want to jab afterwards. If we get a counter hit or a punish counter, which is extremely common with this button, right? When your opponent's in this kind of range, they want to stick buttons out at you. But because this move retracts you and then pushes you forward, you genuinely often get counter hits because your opponent thinks that they can hit you, but then you retract and you smack them back, counter attack. It's a really delicious button. It's quite belligerent. But remember that this is a +4 button, and so on punish counter it's +8, and on counter hit it's +6. So in both of those circumstances, you can go into the medium punch target combo, which is luscious for Ingrid. So off the medium punch target combo, we can get medium beam, and we can also get OD beam into the butt slam, which I think is just like such a disgustingly good combo for the corner carry, the damage, everything. So we want to practice doing that here. We turn off the wake up reversals for now. Just save in the middle here and just press heavy kick and see what happens. So if they block, just chill, don't do anything. You are -2 on block. So if they block, you just want to practice blocking in response. Yeah, just block. Yeah, see there, if I press medium punch, she blocks. So I got to confirm whether there's a counter hit or not. Phew, fire. Nice. You can practice all sorts of stuff out of this. You can practice your level 2 combos if you want. You can put her to have a wake up reversal of crouching light punch, and then off the ballerina you can practice your okizeme from the silver video. Not if you fire, of course, because then you're stocking. But if you go into a ballerina, See, I'm too slow there. I don't have my Okizeme down. So, gotta practice, gotta practice. Alright, so just be practicing that. I think it's really worthwhile. Like the quantity of this that I'm using in the master ranks at the moment is freakish. Like I just be pressing this button all the time. And it just has mad payoffs. Like if you get one of those counter hits, even a regular hit with it, it's so disgusting. Alright, if you want to make it a bit more complicated and you want to practice reacting to a few more things, then my suggestion would be to turn on various block reversals. So one that I think is always useful to have when you're a low grade player and you need to practice is having drive impact as an option and having just do nothing as an option. Right? And then you can also have crouching light punch. And the reason why we want crouching light punch is just to force us to block when we get blocked. Yep, so there we need to block. If we're not blocking, she's going to hit us with that. It's going to turn into a combo. Oh, I was too far away. And then we want to practice reacting to that drive impact. Alright, that's our situation. So I think once you've got that down, you might also want to put in vertical jump. I mean, it's not something that they're liable to do in this kind of situation because they're plus. But I just like to practice people vertical jumping and forward jumping on me. Right, and it's very hard to do those cross cuts that I just did, so they're worth practicing as well. Alright, let's talk then a little bit about defense, and it's nice that I just practiced a bit of jump-ins because I think that's the main thing that we want to emphasize in defense. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of defensive stuff here that's really foundational to the game, but nothing is more foundational to defense in this game than being good at your jump-ins. So make sure you've got a recording where she's jumping in and practice your jump-ins. Boom. If that's a bit too infrequent for you, remember that you can turn the random selection rate on to 2. So you just have that footage where she's moving around doing various things. And when you see them jump, you just pop them. I did this drill so much when I was starting this game. Because if your anti-airs aren't 90%, or more with a character like Ingrid, who's very dependent on anti-jump-ins to get her zoning game going, then you are going to lose. Now, I want to talk about that crosscut a little bit. So the crosscut is when they jump over your head, and you need to, well, there's a few ways you can execute it, but I think with the quarter circle forward motion that Ingrid uses for her uppercut, the easiest thing is just to do quarter circle back, but someone has to be jumping over your head when you do it. The reason why you want to practice crosscuts is one, because a lot of people discover it to be a very cheap tactic around gold platinum and they start to just constantly cross you up. They'll just keep doing this until they get a hit because they know that you can't stop them, right? The way to stop them is usually to dash under and now you're far away from them. But the better way to stop them is to do the crosscut. So cross-cutting is really worth learning, and I think you should be as comfortable with cross-cutting as you are with doing your regular uppercuts. For a very long time, my regular uppercuts were very consistent, above 90%, but my cross-cuts were basically 0. And there were some matches that I wouldn't say I lost just because people kept crossing me up, but it was very frustrating. Now that my cross-cuts are a little bit more consistent, I can at least notice that my opponent is constantly trying to cross me up, and now I'll start looking for that cross up, and then I'll be a bit more consistent at countering it. I think if, as a relative beginner to the game, you're already just practicing this drill with an expectation of occasional crosscuts, then you will develop as a player that can crosscut very naturally, right? And you don't need to worry about it nearly as much. It didn't come out there, but I was under her anyway, so it didn't matter. Alright. Let's stop. So the second reason why I think it's very important to practice your cross cuts, and I dare say this is the more important reason, maybe not quite so important with Ingrid because she's a zoner, but still very important. The reason why you want to practice your cross cuts is because if you are only confident when your opponent is jumping in from this sort of range, then you are always going to stay out of the effective combat range. Now Ingrid really likes to be here. She likes to harass people from here with her fireballs. This is where her heavy punch is really deadly. This is where her forward heavy punch is really deadly. This is where her heavy kick is really deadly. So she likes to be in this range, which means that you don't need to worry about cross cuts so much because people are mostly going to be jumping straight into you. But often in Street Fighter, the better you get at Street Fighter, the more you want to be in here. And the more you want to feel comfortable in here, because this is where you can do all sorts of funky spacing traps. Like your opponent thinks that you're out of range for this, you're not going to actually do this, you wait for them to press a button, you come in with a heavy kick over the top. So you're going to be sitting in this range as you get better, and in this range people can jump over you. Right? If you are afraid to get into this range, because you want to stay at the optimal range for your uppercuts, then you'll never get into this range, right? And that's going to limit you as a player. So I think you just want to practice this drill, sometimes walking right into their face, sometimes backing out, and just getting the ability to judge very rapidly whether this is a cross-cut situation or a regular jump-in situation, and be able to handle both. Right? Most of the time, because Ingrid's backflip is such an incredible anti-air, it's just going to be a regular uppercut, right? Because this thing hits even if they're behind you, which is wild. But there are ways for people to jump over you. The auto-correct is also really good. Sometimes it will just cross-cut for you, even though you put it in quarter circle forward. But you want to practice in both directions. All right, so number 1 point about defense is make sure your anti-airs are good. Number 2 point about defense is just block. Okay, the number of people who play this game, especially in the lower grades, who just never ever block. They wake up mashing buttons, you get a jump in on them and they start mashing buttons straight away. You drive rush into them and they start mashing buttons. They're just always pressing buttons, and they're always pressing counters like this, or they're always pressing their supers, whatever it might be. But don't be one of these people, just be comfortable blocking. Right? There's going to be a lot of situations where you just want to block. All the big damage in the game happens when you didn't block. Okay, the only thing that can be done to you if you're blocking is a throw. Right? You can take 1,000 damage. Right? It's nothing to be sniffed at, 1,000 damage, but it's not the end of the world. And throws basically always reset the neutral. Right? You cannot be put back into the casino blender after you've taken a throw. Right? The exception is in the corner with the throw loops, which is what we're going to talk about shortly. But for now, let me just emphasize that blocking is key, especially in the low grades, because in the low grades, people will do all sorts of insane stuff. Like they'll just be throwing this sort of thing out, right, all the time. Right, they'll just be throwing out -13 moves like that, and then you'll get fat punishes. Well, I'm not getting fat punishes. Why am I not blocking? Obviously, I've got to practice my punishes on my non-medium dégagé. But people will just be doing that in neutral, and you just block it, and you plus, and you get a fat punish. So learn to block, learn to be inactive, learn to play lame. All right, the second, or the third, so we've got anti-airs, we've got learning to block. The third most important thing to understand about defense, no matter what character you're playing, is that you mostly want to understand your opponent's cheap tactics. What sort of stuff are they using to open you up to get into your face, and how do you counter that? Blocking does counter a lot of it. As I said, in the lower grades, people will mostly be doing cheap stuff, right? They'll be drive rushing at you, they'll be drive impacting you, they'll be jumping at you, and then they'll be using things like Kami's Spin Knuckle, Akuma's Demon Raid, Dalsim's Teleport, Ingrid's Teleport, this sort of thing, right? You want to learn how to counter those moves. Every time you lose a match to someone who managed to skip the neutral and get into your face, you need to open up training mode, put those moves in, figure out what it is that you can do against it. I have like laser reactions to Akuma's Demon Raid now. A good player who does Demon Raid from here and positions it so that it's at this weird ambiguous spot in the air can still give me problems. But the diamond rank stuff where someone's full screen and Demon Raids at you, I'm flip kicking that every time. That does not have a chance, right? So you want to practice against those kind of moves. So uppercuts, block, practice against your opponent's cheap stuff. All right, now we will start to introduce some slightly more complex stuff. So let's change character first. We are going to pick up Mai. Mai is the worst. Nobody likes Mai. Don't be a Mai player. Mai is ruining the game. All right, so we are going to go into the corner and we are going to save state here. I have Mai doing a bunch of stuff in the recording settings. Let's have a look. So the first thing she does is throw, dash up, throw. All right, why do I have her doing that? Because Mai has one of the game's most abusive throw loops. So if Mai throws, dashes, she is now +3 in your face, right? That means that if you wake up trying to jab, it's not gonna do anything. She'll just keep throwing you. Let's have a look. A mashing punch. She's still just throwing me, doesn't matter, right? Similarly, if instead of throwing, she was to punch me, the same situation would happen. A mashing punch, right? But she beats me. We learned that in the previous episode about how Okizeme works. If you are plus as your opponent's waking up, you can punch them before they are able to get any of their buttons out. And Mai has just one of the best of these kind of corner throw loop situations. She's very, very good at getting you to the corner. And then she's also very good at doing other annoying stuff in the corner, like her shimmy is amazing. I think this is her shimmy. No, well, that's one. That's the jump in shimmy. And then I've got this too. Yeah, where she walks away and bops you with her heavy punch, right? So if you are throw teching, then you're going to eat a huge combo there. And that's basically how Mai works. That's basically how a lot of Street Fighter works. As I said, the biggest damage you can take is when you didn't block. If you block and she tries to punch you, you'll just block her. You don't take any damage. If she tries to throw you, you take 1,000 damage. If you tech, like I did there, and she bops you with that heavy punch and goes into a full combo, you are going to be eating like 4,000 damage. It's going to be so bad. So what can we do in this situation? Well, I'm going to teach you the delay tech, but I've already showed you the shimmy. So players in the low grades don't know how to shimmy. So the delay tech is very powerful for a little while. It makes you invincible for a little while. Once people know how to shimmy, if you are in the habit of teching constantly, then you will start to eat huge amounts of damage and it's going to be really bad. So do not get in the habit of teching a lot, get in the habit of blocking a lot. But if you notice that your opponent is doing very autopilot Okizeme on you, then you can start to introduce the delay tech. Be thoughtful about it, right? The key thing in this game is not to have autopilot defense, but to instead always be trying to think about what your opponent is doing, how you're going to counteract that. There's tons to think about in this game, so that's hard. Don't be harsh on yourself, but be thoughtful. All right, so what we do first, let's talk about what a delay tech is. So teching is when you press throw as your opponent's throwing you, and then you break the throw. We can show that pretty easily. Right, so that was what we call an early tech. So an early tech, I just press throw immediately. A delay tech, we actually want to hold block for a tiny bit. We want to hold block for about 8 to 10 frames. So the game runs at 60 frames per second. So holding block for 8 to 10 frames is not a lot. But if you hold it for 8 to 10 frames and then you press tech, what happens is that you will block any strikes, and then as the throw animation starts, you will tech it. Because the throw animation is quite long, and there's a fairly large window in there in which you are able to execute your throw. So I'm going to turn on both my throw me and my punching me, and hopefully I will be invincible to both because I'm good at throw techs. Let's see. I'm not always great. Yeah, so we stopped that one. Tech. Tech. Oh, I was a bit too delayed there, right? Got it? Right? That's the basic idea. So, definitely practice your delay teching. The other thing you want to practice is what's called a delayed button. So I'm going to show you a slightly different scenario for this, just to illustrate it. So I've got two recordings here. So in the first one, Maya jumps in and then throws us. In the second recording, Maya jumps in and bops us. All right? So a delayed button is the same principle as the delay tech, but instead of on a slight pause pressing throw, on a slight pause you press punch, right? Usually it's either a jab or a medium button, right? Something pretty fast. The medium button is designed to catch someone walking back and trying to shimmy you. The light button is about stopping someone trying to throw you, right? So we can see that in action here. So if we turn these both on, what I hope to achieve is that if she throws me with a slight delay, so she's got to wait for her plus frames to wear off from her jump in before she can throw me. And that gives me a little bit of time to get my delayed button out if she tries to throw me. If she bops me with her fan, then I'll still be blocking because it's a delayed button. Let's try to have a look and see if we can do it. All right, survive the bop. Still got the delay button out. A useful rule is to imagine the bopping animation, and it's around about when the bopping animation would make contact with your head that you have to press the light punch in order to stop her throwing you. Oops. Get the ballerina off, practice your okizeme, all right? So you want to practice those two a lot until you get the timing down. The delayed button comes up in so many situations. It comes up especially when people are crossing you up. It comes up when people are drive rushing you. They'll be doing a lot of this sort of thing, and you can get the delayed button off in there. And the delayed button is generally a bit less risky than the shimmy. So delay tech really leads into huge punish counter combos, whereas delayed button is a bit less likely to lead into big punish counter combos. And if they do, it's usually going to start with a medium, not with a heavy. So the punish counter combo is not going to be that big. In Street Fighter V, delayed button was less common because so many moves were plus. Almost everything in Street Fighter V was plus. This would be a plus button. This would be a plus button. Now almost no characters have anything that's plus except for their light block string. And so delayed button to snuff people's strings is much more common and something that you'll see a lot in the higher levels of play. All right, once you've got those two basic techniques down, and also the technique that we talked about earlier, the drive rush off low forward and off crouching medium punch, we want to try to set up a slightly more realistic scenario. So the first two to set up is your delay tech stuff, and then I believe slot 3, I've got her doing a DI. Oh, she's doing tech. So let's look at this again. Right, so here she's jabbing me and then throwing me, right? So this is a situation where my delayed button becomes very powerful. Right, now this is much better than trying to jump to stop the throw, right? So that's also an option, and in the low grades that will work quite well, but in the high grades people will uppercut you out of that jump. The other thing you can do is backdash here. Right, but I'd say this is much harder. Right, backdashing is something you want to get into your arsenal because it also beats the regular throw. And you can usually get a combo off. Right, let's try one more time. Can I get a punish counter here? No, right, so that's pretty filthy that Mai can do that and I can't even punish her for missing it. But backdash is throw invincible, so it's one solution to these kind of situations. Jump is another solution, but actually delayed button is probably the safest solution. Delayed button is one of the strongest defensive options in all of Street Fighter 6. So once you've got your delay tech down, add in that third option where she's doing what's called a tick throw. So she ticks you with her light punch and then she tries to throw you, and then turn all of those on. Let's see what you can do. Nice. So there I got hit by the jumping. Nice. Alright, that's the basic idea. Now to add something extra spicy to it, maybe you even want to turn this one off. Turn on slot 4. What have we got in slot 4? The DI. Right? Right, now DI is obviously very dangerous when you're in the corner because you get the wall splat. People love the wall splat, so people will be DIing you all the time in the lower grades. So add that into the mix as well. Once you've got that down, then we want this one too. Right. Right, now Ingrid doesn't have like a crouching heavy punch anti-air or something like that. So if people try to jump shimmy you, you have to be able to uppercut them or at least to block. Right? Why have I got this in? Because if someone's good and they notice that you are able to tech all the time, then they're going to do this occasionally. And then you're just going to eat a fat punish. Now this beats delay tech quite well because I'm still in the throw animation when she comes down, so I can't uppercut her. It doesn't work so well on quick tech, but if I quick tech I get beaten by the buttons. Right, so that's quick tech winning against the throw, but we saw it lose to the buttons. I have enough time to get the uppercut out. So you might have noticed already that this situation when you're in the corner against someone who knows how to abuse throw loops and knows how to abuse Okizeme is just a really bad situation. And that's really fundamental to Street Fighter 6. So it's very clear that Capcom wants this to happen a lot. Many characters can get you to the corner very easily. Once they have you in the corner, many characters have these kind of filthy situations where you are just guessing for your life. And even if you guess right, you often still need to react quite quickly to something like them jumping on you. The other thing I've got recorded in here that you might want to experiment with, but I don't think it's too important at your level, is a shimmy. Right? So if I shimmy, delay tech, boom, got bobbed, right? Now, one thing you can do is just turn all of these on and fight for your life. Got beaten by the tech. Got DI'd. Oh, that was a quick throw, that's why that won there. I'm so bad at reacting to DI. Right, so what do we do when we fight our way out? So something that we haven't talked about is what happens when we get back to neutral. So say Mai comes in with that move we just saw there. So she does 3 punches and then she's chilling. What do we do in this situation? Now sometimes the Mai's will follow this up with a heavy punch, right? And that's really bad for us. And they'll go heavy punch into fan and then they'll come at you. But at this point, after she's done 3 jabs, she's -1. So if we are fortunate, we can get out of the corner with this. Right? So often fighting your way out of the corner is finding a situation in your opponent's pressure strings where they're -1, -2, something like that, and you can get out either a crouching medium kick or a crouching medium punch, which has nice range, or even just a medium punch because it's 6 frames, and fight your way out of the corner with drive rush. Because drive rush not only pushes you further away from the corner, so you now have a bit of space to work with, but it also typically gives you plus frames, even if your opponent is blocking. And so you can, if she's not delay buttoning you like this, right, you can fight your way out of the corner, you can throw them, you can get something happening. So it's very hard to design a drill in which you can practice fighting your way out like that, especially against Mai. You might want to use a different character who has different pressure strings in the corner. But be aware, I think for now, just have this slot open where Mai does something like, and try to practice just getting in that habit of trying to fight your way out occasionally with drive rush. And when you do drive rush yourself out, if you've got her not reversing, one of your absolute best options is to back throw them into the corner. Because now that situation you were in that was super terrible, now your opponent is in that super terrible situation. All right, I've got 2 more things to talk about. The first thing to talk about is the best defensive option that Ingrid has, and I have put it last because it is very similar to delay teching in that if it works great. If it doesn't work, you're going to eat a huge punish. And that move is OD counter. Right? This is great, so let's have a look at what it does. Nice. Let's turn her off for a second. So the way the OD counter works is it comes out on frame 1. So look at the frame data down low. Right, it comes out immediately. You are in a sense invincible while it is out in front of you. And if they try to throw you or hit you or drive impact you or whatever, it will just suck them into the orb and spit them out again. Once it spits them out, you can dash up and do a medium fireball. The medium fireball will land right outside their face like that. And so this gets you a lot of time to move forward. Right? So basically gets you straight out of the corner, and it's really worth doing. But if your opponent shimmies you, what's going to happen then? You're just going to eat the same situation as if you had delay tech, right? So it's not automatic get out of jail free card, and just like the delay tech, you have to be thinking about what kind of your opponent do you have. In the low grades, a lot of people do not have okizeme, so they will not be pressuring you effectively on wake up, and you can just block on wake up and everything will be fine. So put this out if you see that someone is good at okizeme. If you see that someone is shimmying a lot, then don't use this, right? They've already given you the get out of jail free card because they fear the orb, right? They fear the orb. If someone's shimmying you a lot, then you can wake up with this button. Let's have a look at that. All right, and now I'm straight back into a good situation. One more time. That reminds me that actually one other thing I wanted to show you at the start is that crouching heavy punch into beam is a lovely move to do in neutral. Right, if you get the hit, you get a great situation. If she blocks, then... Oh, she is on block all. If she blocks, then you're only -4. They're not going to punish you from there. And he's got really nice range, right? So I see Punk do this a lot. I'm starting to integrate it into my game. It's just a nice way to get something happening in neutral that's very non-committal and can lead to good things for you. All right, so back to the corner. So we've got a little counter, and that works in the other situations we were talking about. It works in the jump-in situation. You can counter their follow-up, but they can also press you. I generally wouldn't abuse this. If you see that someone does exactly the same pressure string all the time, like an Ingrid is just always doing something like this, right? Then after this heavy kick, when you see her, when you know that she's about to do this, you can just bust your counter out because it's frame 1 active. So as soon as you do it, it works. That is only true of the OD version, right, which takes 2 stocks. The other version has a 6 frame startup, so a fast button like a jab will hit you before this comes out. This is basically useless, in my opinion. There are maybe some situations in which it can stop drive impacts, but not really. It's meant to be for absorbing fireballs, but because it takes so long to recover and it doesn't really give you anything for observing fireballs, I just think you shouldn't really bother with it, right? Maybe there'll be some uses with it unlocked over the next year as people explore Ingrid, but for now just use the OD version, and that's your equivalent of your invincible uppercut. Okay, so the last thing we've got to talk about is using your super as a defensive option. So we'll look at Ingrid's level 1 first. So let's turn on Maya's throw loop. You see that there we got the punish counter. The nice thing about using this is that it's invincible on startup for 10 frames. So you saw that she was trying to throw me, but she wasn't able to because I was invincible. And the kick carries you way out of the corner. So it knocks Maya back into the middle of the screen, and I'm standing here pretty close to the edge. The problem with it, but I think this is only going to be a problem for some characters, is that it is an 11 frame startup. So some better characters, or better players rather, can time a meaty jab so that it hits you if you wake up into it, and they actually have time to block if you do the super. I don't expect this down below like master rank 1500 or something like that, but you'll start to see it later. So this is actually a pretty risky defensive option. And the other defensive option that's even more risky is the level 3. Oh, I thought she'd block that. So you can see down the bottom that it's 19 frames of invincibility, but it's 20 frames of startup. Now, if you look at a jab is 4 frames of startup, 14 frames total. So the jab can actually recover and allow her to block before the level 3 is active. So as long as the jab is really meaty, they can bait your level 3. Again, I don't think people in the lower levels are going to be doing this, but I also just generally don't think that level 3 is a good defensive option on wake up. Right? There are other situations in which it's a good defensive option. In particular, that you can basically react to any sort of whiffed button with this in the long screen like this, especially fireballs, for an instant punish. It's a punish counter. So as soon as I see her try to throw a fan, I can smack her with it, and I can be buffering this, right? So look at my reactions there. If I think that she's about to throw a fan, I just start buffering the directional inputs, and then when she does throw a fan, punish counter, right? Most fireballs have a very long recovery, which means that even the 20 startup frames of this and your own reaction is usually enough time to get it off, and it's just a free 4,000 damage. So this brings me back to what I said earlier about just letting beams rip occasionally. Once Ingrid is stocked with Sun Crests and with Super Bar, she's very, very dangerous from anywhere on the screen. She can just delete you. So people have to start playing much more conservatively, and that's when you need to switch the momentum. I think this is like kind of layer 2 of Ingrid's basic game plan. So her basic game plan is to poke people, be annoying, throw some fireballs out, do this kind of stuff. And then layer 2 is once you are stocked, start to be a bit more aggressive because they need to play more cautiously around you, and that allows you to get into this danger zone more and do nasty stuff. Alright, the last thing I want to talk about in this already very long video is Ingrid's level 2 super. This is a very deep move. It's got all sorts of different pathways that you can take, and I'm sure that a lot of them will evolve over the course of the next year as people explore more with this character. That's certainly what happened with JP's level 2. In the low grades, bronze, silver, really all the way up to diamond, you just want to be focusing on your fundamentals like drive rushing and using your normals properly. You don't want to know 40 different combo routes for a level 2 super that you can just drop and stuff up and that will take away your attention. So I'm only going to cover some of the really basic setups for this move. And the most important one is to talk about what happens if your opponent blocks the move that you use to activate this button. So if I do a heavy button and cancel it into level 2 super, I'm actually +4. +4, right? Because I'm +4, if my opponent tries to do something, like press a jab or something like that, I can beat that jab, and I can also throw them with impunity. So there is no way they can jab me out of a throw. Let's have another look. Right, so we got the counter hit. Right, now that's 2,800 damage already, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So I think the first situation to appreciate your level 2 is when you just need to close out the match. So your opponent's down to about 25% of their health. Everyone's really sweaty. What can you do? You've got some bars of drive gauge, you've got some bars of super. Just go in and do your super and pop him with a throw. I don't know what happened there. Oh, I threw him so... That's funny. Because of the drive rush, I was so plus after the heavy kick that my throw actually whiffed because Guile is still in block stun and I can't throw him in that situation. So you do need to time this a bit, but that is a perfectly viable option. Got the counter hit. Boom, 2,800 damage. Very nice stuff. All right. Now, of course, if he is blocking, then he might not just take the throw. He's got a couple of options in terms of what he wants to do. He can do an invincible reversal. Right, there we got a nice 3,000 damage, so even better, just having to block. And I think that we could probably get even more damage than that if we optimized it, but we don't really need to. If we're going in on the block, we're aiming to get about 25% damage, and we should be satisfied with that, and we shouldn't really be going in for the level 2 super if we need more damage than that from the situation. A lot of characters don't have an invincible reversal, so what they are going to try and do instead is to drive reversal. So remember, you can practice drive reversals by going into the dummy settings and put this to on block. Now, it will drive reversal on the first hit of heavy kick, so I think to practice this, it can be better to practice doing it off a crouching heavy punch just to make the timing a bit easier. Let's have a look. Right. And then we need to have a scenario in mind for what to do if our opponent does the drive reversal. And then finally, our opponent can do a delay tech. So we go into the reversal settings, we go to common actions, normal throw, and we put this on, let's say, an 8-frame delay. Nice. Now, you would have noticed maybe there at the end that I got a bounce. So after the last beam came down, Guile actually got bopped off the floor and I could continue my combo. That is because I was using the 2 Sunstock version. So the longer you hold down whatever punch button you use to activate this move, the more beams you get. So if you just do it raw, you're going to get 3 beams. If you hold it down a little bit, you're going to get 4 beams. And if you hold it down a lot, you're going to get 5 beams. So as a rule of thumb, I would say that you should only use the 5 beam option. So only activate level 2 if you have 2 stocks and you can get the full 5 beams. The exception is if, as I said, your opponent is nearly dead and you're just looking to force the issue, and even a blocked level 2 super is enough for you to get a throw in and get the party started. All right. If you're trying to get a hit off this move, then I think you're much better off waiting until you have those 2 Sunstocks, because then you get the ground bounce, and that means that you can continue the combo in really big and disgusting ways, and it's quite trivial to get like 4,500 damage, which is more than you would get off a level 3, so this is really like colossal damage off just a level 2 that's very hard to defend against. So this is one of Ingrid's best things, which is why I have it in the gold video, but I'll put more nuances into it when we get to master. Alright, so we need to practice for all of these different situations. Block, drive reversal, shimmy, and a hit. So let's start with the block situation. I don't think you need to look for too much power options here. If you only have 3 beams coming down, then in this situation, all you can really do is throw and get 1 flip kick. I should note here that I'm always using the heavy version of this move. If you do medium, the beams will not come down behind the opponent, they will come down on top of the opponent, in which case it's not possible to throw them into the beams. I can't think of too many uses for the medium at the moment, but I'm sure that as this move gets tricked out, there will be a lot of uses for it. And if you use the light version, it comes down behind you. Whoops, that's the wrong one. It comes down behind you. If you see the opponent putting the beams down behind them, then you know that they're about to back throw you. Not a great option in this case, but I'm sure again that there will be reasons to do the back throw in the future. If you have 4 or 5 beams, you can actually get a stock off before you go into the flip kick here. Just a cool 3,500 damage for throwing. If you have 5 beams coming down, then you can get 2 stocks.
Close your eyes.
Nice. Just a cool 4,400 damage.
Knock, knock.
Nice. And that is going to be our basic combo structure most of the time we get a hit. So there are probably slightly more optimal things that you can do, but I think this is pretty incredible. So you get 4,600 damage. You can restock. So you're back up to the 2 stocks you just spent. You get really nice corner carry because you have the drive rush and then the teleport kick afterwards. So you can get like half a screen of carry, no problem. If you do take them to the corner here, you have enough time to drive in for the Okizeme, or if they're quite far away from you, you can stock up. And this is why I think generally it's better to go for the 2 stock version, even if you're expecting your opponent to block, because as long as the situation works out for you, you will be able to get back to that neutral situation. All right. So the next scenario to look at is what to do if we think they're teching. In this scenario, again, I think there's some optimizations, but the simplest combo I've come up with that's very similar to what we saw before is we're going to shimmy the tech, and then we're just going to very quickly go into a light ballerina off our medium punch target combo, because this will kick them up into the beams. We want to kick them up into the beams as early as possible so that we can get our stocks off and get back to that really tasty situation for us. So let's go into the block reversal settings. Let's turn on normal throw. Remember to turn it on at 8 frames of delay to simulate a proper delay tech situation. Boom. So only 4,000 damage that time, but still a very good situation for us. And 4,000 damage is like such a huge amount off a level 2, especially when our opponent blocked. Every other character you can get this kind of damage, like Ryu can get 4,000 damage off his level 2, but he's really got to get a hit in order to get that combo started. We just did that off a block scenario where we forced our opponent to make a mistake. Very similar situation if our opponent does the drive reversal. We just want to get them up into the beams as soon as possible, and for that we just do a medium punch and then the ballerina. Boom, 4,725 damage. This is the kind of damage you would get off a level 3 super, all because our opponent tried to drive reversal. Drive reversal is one of the most common answers that you find to this button, so I think it's really well worth practicing what you would do if your opponent does a drive reversal. I think drive reversal is an especially interesting scenario to be mindful of when you are coming in off your own drive rush, right? So if I come in with my own drive rush, then I've got extra plus frames, and that allows me to cover, in a sense, both the drive reversal and the shimmy, because I can go backwards a little bit and then crouch block. And that will mean that if they do the immediate drive reversal, the walking backwards will cover it, and I also walk backwards long enough to beat the shimmy. So I think this is often what I'm doing, but in the low grades, most of your opponents aren't going to know what to do against level 2. So at least in the first set, I would just go straight into throw, right? People might try to jab you out of it because they think, oh, I just blocked, surely I'm plus. So just throw them up into those beams. If someone demonstrates in that first set that they know what to do against this move, then you can go in for the shimmy drive reversal. And because it's a shimmy, you can also just do this, right? If they are tech, then you will beat the tech. If they drive reversal, you will beat the drive reversal. And because you drive rushed in and you have those extra frames, you'll actually be able to come back in, throw, and still get a bunch of the beams, okay? So I think generally speaking, against someone who seems to know what they're doing, the shimmy throw is one of your best options. If you see the drive reversal or the actual delay tech, then you can go into the moves we just described. So practice those 3 scenarios, and then finally you want to practice the hit scenario. Same situation, 4,228 damage, and we got 3 stocks off. Now, one thing you might have noticed there was that I started my combo after the cancel with a medium punch, and I didn't go into the medium punch target combo. If you go into the target combo, it slightly delays the kick up into the beams and you won't get as many hits. The reason why I don't go off a crouching medium punch or a crouching medium kick is that they tend to have worse scaling, especially crouching medium kick. So if you get the hit with your heavy kick, then you can go straight into medium punch. There are situations where you can start your combo with a crouching heavy punch, which will obviously get you more damage because it's unscaled. But for that, you need to hit with something other than heavy kick. Heavy kick will not combo into crouching heavy punch off the cancel, and so I think to keep it simple, just go into the medium punch. So the only real difference between these combos is how you start them off. Once you kick them up into the beams, off the block you get 2 stocks, off the hit you get 3 stocks, and then you're just doing the same thing, drive rush in, heavy beam, teleport kick, boom. Alright, this has been a very long gold video, but I hope you enjoy. One last thing I'll mention that I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the video is that something else you should be occasionally doing in neutral is when your opponent is blocking especially, is crouching heavy punch into down teleport. Right, I see Hanao and some of the other top Japanese players doing this. It's very unlikely that players, especially in the lower grades, are going to have the reactions to jab this teleport out of the air. And so it turns a -1 situation, which is already pretty good for you, into a plus scenario. And now you can just keep your momentum going, you can stock up whatever. The other nice thing about this is that the crouching medium punch really goes quite far. And if you see your opponent drive impacting, you can cancel this into drive impact, which is not true of any of her other fast buttons, right? None of these are cancelable into drive impact except for crouching heavy punch. So if your opponent is very drive impact happy, then this is a button that you should be using more because you can cancel it. All right, see you in the platinum video. We are going to do the deep dive on drive rush.